first question with comparison to De Grey, is it refractory or is it free milling? Or don't know?
This is general advice and my opinions only. This episode's company has paid me for this interview. I may be long, short, or hold an interest in stocks or CFDs mentioned. Past performance isn't reliable. The interviewee's views are their own, not necessarily mine. LEVRD operates as a corporate authorised representative 00131 8377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website, link in the show notes.
We're heading up to the Pilbara, up to the hot country. Pilbara Gold, the old Kairos, brought to you by Cane Toad, not Pilbara Gold itself. LEVRD is the bloody 3D drill hole visualizer software database that you're at a disadvantage of if you aren't using it. Dr. Peter Turner, welcome to LEVRD, mate, on a Friday. I appreciate the time at 1:30.
No problem, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Right, as I said, Pilbara Gold, the old Kairos, for people that don't know. So I guess here it is here. Ticker PGL, tick it along, pulled back like every other bloody gold stock during this friggin' wartime. Is probably with Simon Lill as your chair. Do you get compared to De Grey all the time? Has that been the story from the start? The next De Grey up in the Pilbara?
Well, he brings it up all the time, and exactly. And I guess part of the reason for him joining was on the back of he saw another De Grey in Kairos when he joined Kairos. Now we're Pilbara Minerals, not Pilbara Minerals, Pilbara Gold. But he basically said, you are absolutely. He did his due diligence. He said, you look very much like De Grey in the early years. You got a couple of million ounces there. You got exploration ground to die for, but unlike De Grey, you've got money. So can I join? So absolutely, he's been brilliant ever since. And yes, we do get compared to De Grey, and I think a lot of people out there are looking for the next discovery as well. And certainly, we've positioned ourselves to be really in that same, I suppose, category of developing company with such a good exploration tenement situation that we feel very strongly that we're going to find the next big deposit outside of Mount York.
Yeah, well, and Mount York history, right? So it was owned by Lynas Gold back in the 90s. A bit of mining done there. Just touch on what was done there. Obviously, like everything, stopped due to a low gold price environment, I assume. And how did it come into your portfolio?
Well, it's really quite interesting because it does go back before my time. I've been here now 4 years and really driving the resource story and the exploration story of the company, I guess the discovery story. But in terms of, this project goes back all the way to the 70s with SO Minerals. I don't think there's too many people alive that would remember what they did, but they actually were looking around this whole area. And by the way, we basically adjoin Pilbara Minerals to the north. So we've got a world-class lithium deposit literally as our neighbor to the north. And not far away, we've got Zhaojin for MRL and that consortia. So the whole area was looked at many, many years ago for not just lithium, a bit of gold, but the focus was really on VMS style base metals in this area.
Oh, right.
And how we got hold of it as Kairos Minerals, we changed our name back then as well. We had another name called Mining Projects Group.
That's
we
innovative.
acquired it back in 2000. Yeah, exactly. We took it on in 2016 for a bit of cash and a bit of shares. But prior to that, Lynas, which is actually the Lynas that is involved now with the rare earths. They had it, and they mined 125,000 ounces out of the top surface of this project. Never knew what was underneath it until we come along in about 2000 or so, 2016. We understood what we had. And I came along in 2022 and really got the story going. When I joined, we had, or go back to 2016, we had 123,000 ounces on the project.
Yeah, right.
Today we've got 2.1 million ounces. When I joined, we had 873,000 ounces. But it's so easy to see where the next lot of ounces are going to come from. So if you ask me the question, do you think it's going to stay at 2.1 million ounces? I can guarantee you that it's not. It's going to move, and this is a big system. And I keep saying that. When I joined, I looked at it and I said, "This is a big system, guys. We need to drill this." And really, I guess the amount of drilling that we've done has been commensurate with how much money we've had in the bank and the gold price. So you can see, this is a great example of how gold projects don't get developed and don't get realized because nobody's really interested in gold. It's a very different story now.
Yeah, well, you can see on this, so what, because you've sort of drilled, proven up to ranging from 200 to 400 metres, and that's obviously just been RC drilling limitations, or just no point drilling deep. You've already got 2 million ounces and nothing indicating that it's cut off, I assume.
Well, it just keeps going at depth as well, and this is the great thing about it. Okay, the deepest part of that pit is about 350 meters deep on the optimal shell that's shown on the graphic there. But there's the mineralization is up to 100 meters wide. Certainly over Main Hill and parts of Breccia Hill, the mineralization is extremely wide. It's 4.2 kilometers long, and we've only really drilled this thing down to probably on average across the deposit. Maybe a couple of 250 meters, but we still have very, very strong mineralization and some higher grade zones at depth that we know nothing about. And this is really, you've got to go back in the history of developing a gold project in Western Australia to understand how it's done. We can't, I think we're going to be able to drill down to 500-600 meters to look for both, very deep potential open pitable resources and underground resources on this project, if we are allowed to drill that deep and to continue on exploring on the next panel below, which is what we intend to do this year. So yes, it's a big system. It's continuous mineralization, and at the moment, all of that mineralization optimizes in a single open pit, which when you look at our peer comparison group, it's almost a unique entity for us, but we certainly believe that the resources are going to grow on this project as we go through 2026 as well.
Before we get into the ore body itself, first question with comparison to De Grey, is it refractory or is it free milling? Or
it's definitely not refractory. It's definitely not refractory, and we certainly know. We've done a lot of met test work ourselves. And as we go through the pre-feasibility work, there's been quite a bit of met test work that's already underway for the pre-fees. So, and that test work confirms what we knew already, that there's no refractory nature to the mineralization at all. We got high 80s to mid 90 recoveries, which is fantastic through what we would say is standard CIL type test work. And, we're looking now to optimize the recoveries on that. But, unfortunately, De Grey up the road, or Northern Star as it is now, the Hemi project, they do have some technical challenges there. There's no question. They have a refractory ore body, but absolutely no way do we do. And, it does set us apart as well from some of the other projects in Western Australia.
Well, I think by the rule of thumb, I think 1 gram non-refractory is about the same as 1.4 refractory. So if they usually say take about 50% off. Looking at this long section here, so you've got Main Hill in the middle, which is sort of looks to be the guts of the open pit. And if I go to this cross section here, that pretty decent thick intersections, like we're talking, up to 50. 44 metres at 1.4 grams. Is that cross section I'm looking at with Main Hill there? Is that a pretty good representation of what that looks like through the guts of the open pit? Because it looks very nice to mine with the dip of it and the thickness, especially.
Yeah. The mineralization is captured within a rock type called a banded iron formation, and that banded iron formation forms quite a a consistent ridge across the whole 4.2 kilometers. So it sticks out of the ground as well. And that's presented some of the challenges for drilling in the early days. How do we, mine it up in the air basically and drill it up in the air? It's been a challenge to drill it, but it is there. The mineralization and the banded iron formation at Main Hill is 100 meters wide. There's multiple zones of mineralization throughout the banded iron formation. We do sometimes see some really nice high grade mineralization on either the hanging wall or the footwall. But essentially it is a big, wide, fat ore body, and it still continues to be fat at 300 meters depth. And really what that graphic shows you is some blue lines that are on each of those sections as we look through the deposit, both in the central part in the middle and the west on the left-hand side, and Gossan Hill on the eastern side. There is no information at the base of the pit. So in other words, at this stage, we really don't know where the base of the optimal pit shell will fall. And this is part of the reason for doing this next round of large drilling program, over 50,000 meters of drilling we're scheduling this year on this asset, to really test what we see happening at depth. And, the extraordinary thing is that, some people will ask me, does the mineralization die out when you start drilling deeper? It's actually extremely consistent, and the mineralization we're seeing across the whole of the base of that optimal shell is that the mineralization is just as thick and nice high-grade pockets as we go deeper through the mineralization, and that's really what we want to test. You can see there's a hole there, MYD 24A. It's 106 meters at 2.09 grams. There you go. There's one.
Yeah.
There's one to talk about, but that's not an orphan. We see multiple hits like that through the deposit, and we're certainly encouraged with seeing some really nice zones of high grade. One of the holes that we had in August last year, we announced was in a completely new area that we'd never drilled before, called the Monster Zone. It was 53 meters at 1.45. Including 10 meters at 2.95. That was only a few hundred meters deep, but there's nothing below it. So we are very confident about extending the mineralization through deeper. Yeah. And of course, not to forget that earlier this year, we finalized the agreement with PLS to acquire the 1.5 kilometer extension to the northwest of this deposit as well. And that mineralization has only really been drilled out in the top 100 meters. So there's plenty of work to do. And I feel there's plenty of additional gold ounces to add to the resource here. So we feel very, very comfortable this year about adding resource ounces to this overall project.
The banded iron formation hosting of it, could you explain it in terms of a hardness, two, geotechnically, when mining a pit? How does this BIF hold up effectively?
Yeah, well, we're not the only ones to have banded iron formation in our gold project. You can take Mount Gibson, for instance, for Capricorn. They have almost an identical deposit, although you'd argue that this is higher grade. Banded iron formation is really it's a geological unit. It's a sedimentary unit that occurs largely in the Archean, very old rocks. Layers of silica and layers of iron. That's effectively so it does actually look like a bit of a black sandwich when you look at it. Banded iron formations are mined more, they're better known for being mined for iron. So there's actually a fair bit of iron in this deposit. The rock is quite dense. Yes, it's quite hard. And we've had some bulwark index test work done on this to really suggest that we're getting medium to hard results back from that met test work, but it just seems to behave in a very different way when it's stressed, and I think this is why pretty much all of the gold mineralization occurs within this unit only. It's exclusive within this unit. There's some hanging wall sediments there which are almost unmineralized, and a footwall basalt which is almost unmineralized as well. So it's a really, really interesting case, and when we're drilling this deposit, We hit that banded iron formation, and the geologists are on it like crows. They're all hanging around looking for the sparkly bits that are going to come out, and there are some sulfides in there as well. But they're certainly there to look to see how much potential gold is in that banded iron formation. And I often get phone calls from the guys on site saying, "Oh, we've just drilled this hole. Geez, it's looking good. This is going to be a good hole." So there's certainly the magpies in there. I was going to call them crows, but they're not. They're magpies. They're looking for the shiny stuff in as the drilling's underway. Yeah. And it's very exciting for them too. There is not one unexcited geologist on our team. They are all looking forward to drilling this banded iron formation unit.
What's the I see on the cross section you got sort of a sediments hanging wall and a mafic, ultramafic footwall. So what's ultramafics come in many different shapes and sizes. Explain that footwall area of the pit to us.
It's certainly, as soon as we go through on the drilling and we hit the mafics and the ultramafics in the footwall, we generally drill a few more meters and then we sort of pull out. The sequence is pretty well known. All of our drilling was in 2025 was pretty much diamond core. And for that reason, we can actually see the mineralization in RC drilling. You would struggle to look at the chips and to understand the geology, but the core gives us the advantage of really understanding the geology really well. So we have a very good handle on the geology, and you need to have that before you go into a mining stage. The characteristics of the footwall are it's a competent rock. Most of the rock we have here is competent. There's probably less competent rock in the hanging wall sediments, and the BIF is extremely competent. So, as we've already discussed, there is already some mines at the site, shallow mines, but it gives the geotechs a really good idea on how the larger scale mine is actually going to behave as we go forward, and that's really important as well.
You're all like looking at the scale of it, and we compare it to how big De Grey's going to be, bloody 10 million tonne. Your old scoping study was sitting at what, 4 million tonne? Is that, if you're going to aim to expand this, is that going to become outdated, or is there going to be sort of a modular package as a starting point? Do you envisage if this gets into production?
We're certainly not going to put the cart before the horse here. We want to grow the resources. We are doing a lot of the pre-feas work behind the scenes. We're not prioritizing that over drilling. We're making sure that all of the drilling is completed before we really start pushing the button on what size of mill we're gonna deploy and so on for and look at for the pre-feas. But it's one of those things that we certainly see a lot more potential than when we did the scoping study in terms of the resource and potential reserve. So what that means is let's drill this thing out. Let's see what the potential of the resource is. I think we'll know that probably, or at least have a much better idea in maybe July, August, September time. We'll probably have a good idea on how the project's going to evolve. And then we'll start looking at optimal sizes to complete the PFS. And the PFS timetable at this stage is really to complete a PFS probably first quarter next year. This is calendar year next year. But of course, depending on how things go with the drilling and how successful we've been on adding resource ounces, then it will determine the result of the PFS as well. We're not in any hurry to finish the PFS. We want to get the resources up there first. And we want to really drive the size of the resource. If I can really emphasize that, we want this to be one of the largest undeveloped gold projects in Western Australia that is not owned by a mining company. That's really our ultimate aim. The studies will continue in the background, but we're not going to rush it. We believe we've got something very special here. So,
and because looking at that, like your future drill, I think you alluded a bit before, like you're looking at the I assume that's northern end of Gossan Hill. So those planned drill holes, and on the previous cross section, you had, those extra holes going down at depth in Main Hill. Is that so? A lot of the resource growth you're targeting, is a lot of it going to be deeper, or you're hoping to get a good chunk out of extensions that are actually pretty close to surface?
Yeah, well, that visual there, the long section really does show what is open, and it's the pink area in that visual that we're really targeting. So there's going to be, I forget the number of holes we've got, but we've got 50,000 plus meters of drilling going into pretty much all of that pink area.
Yeah,
and that is really going to define the size of the resource and the potential size of the reserve as well, and the size, of course, of the final pit shell that we decide at the time. But we've got 2.1 million ounces in there. It is constrained to within that pit shell itself. But there's no information below that pit shell. So in other words, there's nothing to say you can't have more information or more gold resource ounces in the resource, because there's just no information below it. And that's the problem we faced every time we drilled this project. We increase the resource ounces, but then again, and the pit gets larger, the pit shells get larger, but it still says the same thing. You don't have any information below for us to absolutely determine where the base of the potential open pit is going to be. So that's why we're so excited about this project. I do believe there's a lot of resource growth still to occur in this project. But I might even just throw in there that this is not the only potential resource project in the company either. We do have a project called Roe Hills that we've just got the final approvals on the heritage to go ahead and drill that as well. And this is a project that we have that we've touted as being the next resource in the company as well. So there is a second resource project here, and that is also a very exciting proposition for the company as well.
Is that on the same area that I'm looking at on screen here, or?
It's actually in the Kalgoorlie area. So
right, gotcha.
You'd have to go up, and you'd have to go up to slide, whatever it is, the first slide or the second slide, and there's a visual there. There it is.
Gotcha.
You can see right down the bottom of that visual on the right hand side, you can see the Roe Hills project. You'll see more information come out over the course of the next week or so on Roe Hills. It is a very exciting proposition. It is a project that is surrounded by mine infrastructure and mines and mills. And we feel that this year we can get a maiden resource out on that project as well. So, we're not just a single project company. There's no question.
Oh, pardon me. That register that we're looking at here, I guess your top three holders are obviously good validation having Eric Sprott and Franklin Templeton on there, but Zhaojin with 8.1%. They're getting pretty active throughout the world. How long have they been on the register and held that much? And I guess what's their involvement? Are they looking at this as a potentially big development project for themselves in Australia without speaking on behalf of them?
Yeah, well, it's a question for them, but my interpretation is that they are very excited with what we're doing. They appreciate that we're a massive value proposition for them right now. I mean, they are a large company. There's no question that they're a 12 to 14 billion market cap company and one of the largest gold mining companies in the world. So to attract that caliber of mining company to our register is just unbelievable. They actually managed to buy a percentage off Regal when Regal sold 4%. Zhaojin jumped in at the chance, bought the line, and then they didn't stop there. They did continue to buy on market, and they really continue to be extremely supportive. What's their end game? I don't think they're a very serious company. I think they enjoy the idea of what we're doing. We're very much aligned with resource growth and building the project. So let's see what happens. But I don't think they're there just for a single investment to come in one day and exit the next.
They're looking at the balance sheet, but even just on an EV basis, like you got last prezzo you had 35 mil cash and market cap of 126, so what, 90 mil EV, which is pretty for a couple of million ounces. I guess that 35 mil you got in the bank, and that 2026 sort of drilling campaign, I assume 50,000 metres, all in, a couple $100, $200-300 a metre. I assume you got plenty to sort of fund this year's drill and then going into next.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got plenty of money. We did announce about 30 million at the last quarterly. We are drilling, and that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing with the money. We are there to drill and to grow resources. Our discovery rate on the last resource estimation was something in the order of about $13 to $14 a resource ounce discovery cost, and I think anybody would say that's a pretty good number. We want to do the same again. We want to grow the resources again. We've got double the size of resource drilling to do this year, and we want to grow the resources significantly again. There is no question, and this is the asset to hold. On an enterprise value over resource basis, we're extremely, I hate to use the word, we're extremely cheap.
Every other MD does it, mate. You may as well.
We're good value. Let's put it that way. We're extremely good value. Zhaojin recognise that, and to put that in perspective, we're probably half of the EV that Astral are, and Astral have, they're sitting there quite nicely. They got a good project. We feel we've got a better project, but I'm not quite sure why we're undervalued by probably 50% to what they're trading at. But that's the thing with the market. I get asked a lot of questions about why you're so undervalued, and I think it's probably broker support. We spend a lot of time in the technical department looking at the drill holes. We've got a very small team here, and only now am I starting to grow the team, grow the company, and really be allowed to do my day job, which is really to go out and talk to people like you, Matt. Talk to the brokers and the analysts, and I can tell you there's a lot of excitement when I tell the story. This is one of these stories that's a growth story for the market, and you know what? We've got money in the bank. We raised it at a good price, and now what we can do is we've got a following, but I think people are aligned with what we're doing in terms of growing resources for a start, because that's a pretty easy way that the market can understand what your true value is, and look to move the project closer to development. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I think those two things together are you need to do to increase the share price of a company like ours.
So, because you're obviously going to have a bit of news flow with drill results this year, but when you might have said it before, when's the anticipated MRE update, and then probably looking further on from that, an updated study like over a 24-month period?
Yeah, I think we certainly want to get the resources up to where we think they should be. It's certainly not where we're sitting right now, but let's grow the project, the test work, all the chapters of the pre-fees are largely underway anyway. A lot of the environmental work has been completed. A lot of that stuff has already been done. So the time frame is really by the end of this year, we really want to have all the drilling finished and be well underway with the next mineral resource update. And that will lead then into completion of the pre-fees probably in 2027, early 2027. We've just appointed a really top study manager, and that's what he's doing at the moment, is looking at what we need to do to get there and to put the timeline in place. So I think you'll be seeing a lot more information on the absolute timeframes of these things. I'm not going to jump ahead and do his job for him. He will need to advise on really where we sit and where the challenges are going to be, and how quickly we can move this project forward. But we're looking to get our first reserve out, I would say, as quickly as we've got the resource out. We'll be focused on the reserve statement.
He started this week, didn't he?
Well, he started. He started. What are we now? Friday. He started on Tuesday.
Oh, he should have. He should be on his way by now.
I have asked him. I said, by Wednesday afternoon, I want some of these things finished. And I'll tell you what, he just said yes. Okay,
you're onto a winner there.
He's that sort of guy.
Bro, finally, mate, the native title agreement that you've got with the Neomar group and the mining lease secured, like how compare it to where sort of what Northern Star are going through to try and get Hemi like the TOs on board there to get that going. So is that native title agreement, are you pretty far ahead for where you're at in terms of, not even in a development phase or anything, you're still drilling?
I'll tell you, Matt, the native title agreement that was signed at the end of last year really set us up nicely. But what we've effectively done is we completed that native title mining agreement in about 6 months, and it's not because we paid lots of money and we paid a big royalty and all that. It's nothing to do with that. It's really treating the NAML with complete respect. We are on their ground. We consider them to be absolutely 100% partners in this project. And they've responded by saying to us, we are happy. This is what we want out of the project. This is what we want to do. And we've listened to them. So our approach to signing and consummating the agreement was done very quickly. And that set us up really to get the mining lease granted by the state government a few weeks later. But I can't quite say what Northern Star are doing up the road, but you've got to approach the native title group with complete respect, and I'm sure Northern Star are doing that. They are in a different domain. They're not with the NAML. So really, but it's one of those things that you really need to negotiate with an open hand and be very transparent and open that negotiation up very quickly, very early in the process, and make sure that you both understand each other and the expectations on what you both want out of the project.
Yeah, very good, mate. Nah, too easy. That's I'll tell you what, I've done a few interviews lately. This is one of the more interesting of long term. I see it's I'll be interested. I'll be following this drill program very closely. You've sparked my interest, that's for sure. There might be an Instagram video out with me buying it next week. We'll see how we go. But I'll be having a good think about this one. Very, very interesting.
Thanks, Matt. And some people say to me, Pete, you got such a good project. You just need to be a little bit more like Simon Lawson.
Don't say that. Don't be like him.
I know Simon pretty well, and honestly, I'd love to be Simon Lawson, but probably not. But anyway, look, it's a great story, and certainly I think it's one to watch going forward.
Too easy, mate. Well, I'll let you go crack the whip on the new study manager, mate, and start yourself on the weekend. Thanks, Pete, for coming on LEVRD, and look forward to seeing what these holes come back with at the end through this year, mate. Cheers, Pete.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks very much. Thank you.
And as always, punters, thanks to the Dosh sponsor, the Toad, the Cane Toad. Link in the show notes to the 3D drill hole visualising software that will change your life. Thank you very much.